rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, or until you see them at a Puffy party.
Oh.
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive.
Because in this episode, Terrence Howard describes an interaction with Diddy where he says that he believes that Diddy was trying to Let's take a listen.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to.
In Hollywood, the line between opportunity and manipulation has always been thin. Behind the red carpets, the flashing lights, and the powerful connections, there are stories that most stars would rather keep buried. But every once in a while, someone speaks up, not for fame, but to reveal what really goes on when the cameras stop rolling. Recently, actor Terrence Howard, known for his powerful performances in Hustle and Flow, Empire, and The Best Man, opened up about an uncomfortable encounter he had with music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. His story, though unsettling, fits perfectly into the disturbing pattern that other insiders like Jaguar Wright have been warning the world about for years. As of October 2025, Diddy is behind bars, serving a 50-month prison sentence for 2 counts of transportation for prostitution. The verdict confirmed what many had long suspected, that the entertainment icon was living a double life, one filled with manipulation, control, and hidden darkness. But before Diddy's empire began to crumble, Terrence Howard's story stood out as a rare moment when a respected Hollywood man spoke about feeling targeted by one of the industry's most powerful figures. And now, with Jaguar Wright connecting the dots publicly, this incident has become a key piece in understanding how Diddy used influence, not just to dominate music, but to manipulate people across Hollywood. Terrence Howard's story begins innocently enough. During an interview on the Patrick Bet David podcast in April 2024, he shared how Diddy had been calling him for weeks, asking for acting lessons. Diddy claimed he wanted to learn how to express himself better, to act, to perform, to deepen his emotional range.
Terrence Howard was in the news recently for talking about the issues that go on with Backdooria. Now listen to me. Terrence Howard said something about once your manhood been grabbed up out of you, you need therapy. Am I right? Is that? That's what he said. Yeah. Listen. In fact, Terrence Howard, let me tell you something about Terrence Howard. Now, I'm a big fan of Terrence Howard's talent. I think he stands out talently.
I bet you he'll come on the show.
I would love him to come on the show because you know what I want to ask him? How was you able to work on the set of Empire as a heterosexual man? I know you were hated upon if you wasn't part of the Brown Hotel Rag crew.
That's some funny ass.
Say it. If you're not part of the disposable hotel rag mob, you're not gonna fit in on the set. Let me tell you something about being on set. Craig, you've been on set for movies before, right? The makeup trailer
is full of
is the most, it's like where the gangs meet up on the Backdooria side.
And it's so small and
you got one of the greatest phrases for it. Chili doggers.
The chili doggers. Listen, man. When you on set, you go to the makeup truck. Do you know if a heterosexual male is in the makeup truck while everybody else is in there, you throw off everything. The makeup truck, when you are on set, men like to walk up to each other and but if you in there, a heterosexual male, they be like, this is how they do. They all let you know. They gotta look. He in here, yo.
The one, yeah.
The guy who likes only vaginas in here. They say it with their eyes. When you walk in the makeup thing, this is how they do it. So I would like to ask Terrence Howard how he survived on the set of Empire. When if you're not with it, you are public enemy number one. You were the head of the set. Am I right? He was either number one or number two on the list. You know when you do a TV show, what was his list? It couldn't be more than number three.
Him and then Taraji.
Right. It's either Taraji or him. Number two. You're a heterosexual male on the set of Empire. How did you pull it off? I want to know, Mr. Howard. Please come on the 5150 show. I know you have stories to tell that you really want to get off. Come tell it on a real platform where the real truth is able to come out, because we are who we say we are. Except for maybe Darlene. I think Darlene. Okay, my bad.
That was funny, though.
What'd they say?
Somebody said that he would say, "Don't touch me, man." You know, he does that.
No, what he did on Hustle and Flow, his accent was brilliant.
Man.
He killed that. He killed that thing. Hey, man. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Right. He killed that. He's a great actor. Great actor. But the set of Empire smelled like they was cooking chitlins all day long.
At first, Terrence thought it was a professional request. After all, he was an accomplished actor, and Diddy, despite his fame, often tried to position himself as a creative chameleon, always jumping from music to film to fashion. So Howard agreed to meet him, but when the meeting finally happened, things felt strange. Instead of being a normal session or discussing scripts, Diddy reportedly just sat and stared at Terrence. No clear explanation, no conversation about acting, just silence and an unbroken gaze that quickly became uncomfortable. Howard, known for his calm composure, later said the experience made him uneasy. Diddy asked to hear some of Terrence's personal music, a hobby Howard often explores outside of acting. But even while listening, Diddy continued to stare.
You know, we talk about far as like simulations. I mean, I do feel like there's something. You ever watch Back to the Future?
Of course. Come on.
You see Marty McFly, he makes a decision, and the time changes.
Hey, let's go.
Yo.
You ain't coming out. No, this is the area you want to be in.
T.
What's up, dude?
You're becoming a legend, bro. You're already a legend, but what your message is a legend, bro.
Howard eventually left that meeting confused and disturbed. When he spoke to his assistant about what happened, his assistant immediately pointed out what Howard had been too uncomfortable to consider, that Diddy's behavior seemed like a subtle advance. Terrence recalled how his assistant bluntly told him, "I think he was trying to make a move on you." The revelation shocked Howard. It wasn't just the awkwardness, it was the realization that this wasn't an isolated experience. He mentioned that throughout his Hollywood career, other producers had tried similar tactics, but he made it clear that he always drew the line.
So funny, like my friend said to me, rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, well, until you see them at a puffy party.
Oh.
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray.
What is it, what is it with all the man-on-man action that I'm learning about? I mean, like with the puffy parties, like the last thing I ever thought that went on there was gay stuff. Not that gay stuff was wrong, it's wonderful. I just did not think that's what Puffy was doing.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it either. And even when my assistant said that stuff, I still was like joking it off. And it wasn't until later on that I heard other things from people that worked from him. You know, you remember that back in the times of slavery, they had a thing called breaking the buck, where they would take, not to go in a bad place, but this is how I see what's happening, the parallels with what's happening, correlates what's happening in the business. If they, back in the times of slavery, if they had like some 12-year-old slave that was just full of himself and confident and wasn't listening, they would tie him to a log or a barrel, and a bunch of the overseers would to where when he walked around with the slaves now, he didn't have the confidence.
Sure.
He was broken. And it was called breaking the buck.
Wow.
And that's still taking place. And so to hear that people in the industry are still making young rappers who have fought the worst of circumstances, being disenfranchised, being discounted, and then they finally I'm gonna put it into the music. I'm gonna do it in the music, and I'm gonna, and get myself together, and they go and see someone, and they tell them, okay, yeah, you can have a deal, perform fellatio on me, and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And Petey Pablo, you remember Petey Pablo?
I know who that is.
Petey Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho His Own. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the homosexuality taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business. No radio station would play his stuff. So you look for Petey Pablo, he's not around anymore. But that song, Ho Its Own, they did not care, and they went all in on it.
Terrence said he had even lost business opportunities because he refused to compromise his values. He didn't play into the industry's hidden games. He didn't trade integrity for advancement. He said he would never play a role that required him to betray his sense of masculinity or self-respect. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, he explained, you're going to get a real reaction back.
Now, Terrence Howard said any man who went to a Diddy party has lost his man card, and I think he said I think he means literally, given that it's a Diddy party. Because I went to that white party one, and, frankly, a bit of an F would have livened up an otherwise pretty tedious garden party that was essentially like going to sort of like the Chelsea Flower Show, just with some hip-hop playing.
I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah. Puffy invited me, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music, and he's sitting there just looking at me. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying.
Firstly, it's acting lessons. Actually, I'd like to hear some of your records. Look, I'll be honest with you, I just want okay.
That quote hit deep for many viewers. It wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It was about a culture in Hollywood where power often demands silence and resistance comes at a heavy cost. Terrence Howard's story might sound surprising, but to people like Jaguar Wright, it was just another example of what she's been warning about for years. Wright has long claimed that the entertainment world operates on hidden tests, situations designed to see how far someone is willing to go to be accepted by the elite. According to her, these tests often come disguised as opportunities, a party, a private meeting, a promise of mentorship. But behind the smiles and luxury, there's manipulation. Some insiders call it breaking the artist. Others say it's a way to ensure loyalty through secrecy. In Terrence's case, what seemed like a harmless acting lesson turned into something else entirely. If Diddy truly intended to use that meeting as a form of control, it fits the same pattern Jaguar has described, using influence and intimacy as tools of domination. Wright has repeatedly stated that Diddy used these encounters to test boundaries, to identify who would stay quiet and who would speak out. Those who stayed silent often got rewarded. Those who resisted or questioned him were allegedly blacklisted or frozen out of opportunities.
Well, because the Me Too movement was a ruse. It was a setup. It was a scam. I'm saying that now, publicly. Dream Hampton spearheaded the Surviving R. Kelly campaign, which fueled the Me Too campaign. And that was all funded by Sean Carter to make sure that Robert Kelly went to jail. Get his lick back. Why is nobody understanding that Dream Hampton was being financed and ran by Sean Carter? They were able to go and get all of these witnesses because he was there with Robert Kelly. How does Jay-Z sit down with Gayle King and she not ask him one question about the intersection between him and Aaliyah and Robert Kelly? This is insane that people keep refusing to see what's right there. If the Me Too movement were real, why aren't they speaking now? They've also been very quiet in this time of the diddler's downfall.
Jaguar,
Guess they're on vacation.
if this goes to court, Jaguar, do you think the world is going to be shocked by what comes out?
Oh, absolutely. I just don't know why they are. It's been happening in front of everyone's faces for decades. For decades.
How many victims?
What's the difference between me and Judy Garland? Social media.
How many victims?
There was none for her.
How many victims potentially do you think there could be?
Thousands. Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself. I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
Keeping
Porter?
people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Pierce.
Listen, like I said, Jay-Z and Beyonce are not here, unfortunately, to respond to that.
I know. I'm just being honest with you.
You're perfectly entitled to your views, obviously. Kim Porter, a new book claims that Diddy may have been involved in her early death. What do you think of that?
I think people should really look into that more. I am friends with Albie Shore. I love him. I love his children. I knew Kim. We used to all hang out together at the Kit Kat Club back in the mid-90s when Diddy was first starting his reign. I watched that whole thing happen. And everything that Albert has been through, every attempt on his life that has been ignored by the authorities, it all leads back to Diddy, and everyone knows it. The wiretapping of the phones, putting air tag on children during visits. These are normal practices that these people do.
Terrence Howard's career struggles in later years suddenly feel more layered when viewed through that lens. While Empire made him a household name again, he's also spoken about being underpaid, undervalued, and constantly fighting studio pressure. Some now wonder whether Diddy's brief but strange interest in him was part of a broader Hollywood dynamic, one where refusing to play along means losing favor. Jaguar Wright's name has become synonymous with truth-telling in an industry that thrives on image. Long before Diddy's arrest and conviction, she had been warning people about his behavior, describing him as manipulative, controlling, and dangerous. In interviews, Wright claimed she had seen how Diddy used charm and power to trap others in compromising positions. She said she'd been to some of his infamous parties, which she described not as celebrations, but as controlled environments where people's vulnerabilities were exploited. Wright claimed she sometimes went to those gatherings not to participate, but to protect others, to help those who didn't realize what they were walking into. In one viral clip, she asked, who is going to help them? What HR department exists in this industry to protect artists?
Uptown Records started with 5 people. Andre Harrell, Albie Shore, Heavy D, and Puffy. And Kim was the longest working employee because she was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al almost died. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was gonna meet up with him because we were in Vegas, and then the next thing you know, you wanna know what they all had in common though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Al B. Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened to him? He must be the luckiest motherfucker, because it seems like everybody that worked at Uptown Records from the very beginning is gone. Just him.
That question summed up her whole mission. For her, exposing Diddy wasn't gossip, it was survival. She said she watched the way he built fear around him, using secrets to keep people obedient. When Wright appeared on Piers Morgan, Uncensored in October 2024, she described Diddy as one of the most dangerous people she'd ever met. She said he was a victim-making machine, accusing him of destroying lives quietly while presenting himself as a mentor and mogul. She also claimed Diddy had evidence on other powerful figures in the industry, videos, messages, and records that could ruin careers. According to her, anyone who thought Diddy wouldn't talk or expose others if cornered was crazy. At the time, many dismissed her statements as attention-seeking. But when Diddy's trial began and witnesses described his freak-off parties and transportation arrangements for activity, suddenly, Wright's words didn't seem so far-fetched.
I'm gonna tell you who I believe is on the tapes. I believe Barack Obama got a tape.
Yeah, he playing hide the hot dog.
I know Jennifer Lopez has multiple tapes.
Oh yeah. Oof.
I know Beyonce got a tape. I definitely know they probably recycled some old Stevie J and Eve stuff. I know Drake got a tape. I know Rihanna got a tape. I know Chris Brown's on one of them tapes. I know Trey Songz has been like a supporting actor in many freak-off films. Definitely Usher. I think what would shock people are the politicians and the royals that were on that tape. And I'm still trying to figure out when Harry and Meghan are gonna be honest about their freak-off tape.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really wants to talk about the fact that the royal family had many times at Diddy party, especially that weirdo uncle.
By mid-2025, everything Jaguar Wright had been saying for years was finally being validated in court. Diddy faced multiple charges, including racketeering, trafficking, and transportation for prostitution. The most serious charge, racketeering conspiracy, was ultimately dropped, but he was convicted on 2 counts of transportation for prostitution. The trial revealed disturbing details about Diddy's private world, one where control, coercion, and secrecy shaped everything. Witnesses described how women were transported across states for encounters that he allegedly orchestrated.
He sponsored these parties with drugs and underage girls. The CEO of Universal Music, Lucian Grange, is named as a defendant. So is the former CEO of Motown Records, Ethiopia, Habert Mariam, and others. Lil Rod says hidden cameras were in every room of Diddy's homes. Lil Rod believes that Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties. Salacious tapes of Hollywood's biggest names, including record CEOs and politicians, doing drugs and cavorting with prostitutes and minors.
Prosecutors leaned on the Century-Old Man Act, which forbids transporting individuals for illegal sex. And while the racketeering charge was harder to prove, the transportation counts were clear enough to secure his conviction. The judge sentenced Diddy to 50 months in prison, emphasizing that his power and wealth made his crimes even more harmful. He wrote a letter to the court admitting he had lost his way and been broken to his core.
Breaking news, Sean Diddy Combs was just sentenced to 50 months in federal prison. Yeah, that's right. After all of that, all that they gave him was 50 months with credit for time served, which I believe is like 13 months off of his sentence. It's another day in America and another message to victims that what they went through, what they suffered, doesn't matter and that justice will never be fully served in this country. Now, don't get me wrong. If it was you or me who got convicted of those charges and got sentenced, we definitely would have gotten more than 50 months. But Diddy is rich. Diddy is powerful. Diddy has sway with powerful elite people. And because of that, that judge just sent a message to everyone that his life is more important than the life of his victims. Somebody needs to send out a forensic accountant to check all of that judge's financials and see if he's seen any large sums of money in his bank accounts, any offshore accounts, any crypto wallets. I mean, Diddy's not coming home today, but in my opinion, 50 months is an absolute joke. What do y'all think? Let me know down in the comment.
For Jaguar Wright, this wasn't just justice, it was vindication. She had been saying for years that Diddy's empire was built on control and silence. And now, a federal court had confirmed that at least part of that darkness was real. The entertainment industry is filled with stories that never make the headlines. People sign contracts, attend parties, and chase opportunities, often without realizing the hidden costs. Jaguar Wright has often said that Diddy wasn't the only one running things like this. She described the entire system as a network, where those in power trade access for obedience. Terrence Howard's brief encounter with Diddy shows how subtle these manipulations can be. It wasn't a scandal, but it was a moment of boundary testing, a moment that revealed the imbalance of power between two men in an industry built on egos.
So now what? What you want to do? Prove my point. Look at what we just did. We just solved a 300-year-old problem. We just freed up a whole lot of minds with the same stuff that you said was bathwater. I don't blame you. It does seem like something from out of this planet, you know. Maybe it is. But three-body problem has been solved.
It's telling that Howard later had disagreements with Diddy over empire. When Diddy's stepson, Quincy Brown, wanted to appear on the show, a dispute reportedly broke out about music ownership. Howard allegedly pushed back, insisting on fairness. For a man like Diddy, who is used to controlling contracts and creative rights, that resistance likely didn't sit well. Howard's comments about losing business for refusing to compromise seem to fit perfectly into the narrative of how Hollywood protects compliance and punishes defiance.
And you said something I've never really heard a lot of actors say about the process of acting. And you said that sometimes when you walk off, they walk off with your clothes.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Well, as an actor, you're more like a medium.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you really get there, you know, you go into this zone and you really divorce yourself of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you just become a garment that something else puts on. Now,
right.
A lot of people sit up there and do impersonations of other folks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, instead of allowing that spirit, you know, but I sit up and I'll pray for a little bit and go in a dark place,
Mm-hmm.
go in a bathroom, turn off the lights, look in the mirror,
will have light on it first, and then after 1 minute, turn the light off, and and search until you see your own glow, your own aura, and then you watch it change.
Wow.
And it's a scary thing because you'll feel like some hands are on you, and you lose a little bit of control of what you're doing. But if you stay with it, you'll be inhabited by something, and then you walk out, and the character's with you, and you got to know how to say goodbye to it.
Right.
If you really want to get there.
Right.
A lot of people are afraid, to empty themselves and be filled up with something else. But, as an actor, you're an emotional.
Wow.
You put on whatever you need for the job. You're turning a trick. You're turning an emotional trick.
Wow.
And it's nothing more glorious than that.
Okay.
One reason so few people speak up is fear. Fear of losing deals, fear of being blacklisted, fear of retaliation. Jaguar Wright often said that Diddy's true power wasn't in his music or money, it was in his ability to silence others. She claimed that Diddy gathered compromising information on people who attended his events. Some say that was how he maintained control, ensuring that no one would ever dare expose him. Howard, unlike many, didn't stay quiet about his discomfort. He spoke plainly and confidently. And while his story didn't include violence or crime, it pointed to something deeper, a culture where boundaries are constantly pushed and where saying no can quietly end careers. That's why Jaguar's voice matters so much. Even when people doubted her, she kept talking. She said she'd rather be called crazy than stay quiet and let others suffer.
4 years behind bars for Sean Diddy Combs. It comes after Diddy pleaded for mercy, stood up and addressed the judge inside the courtroom. In a shaken voice, he apologized to Cassie Ventura. He apologized to that former girlfriend, again known as Jane, and he said he was sorry to all other victims of domestic violence. Diddy called his own behavior disgusting, shameful, and sick, and he said it cost him his career, his reputation, and his family.
Now that Diddy is serving his sentence, the entertainment industry is being forced to look at itself. The same people who once celebrated him at award shows now avoid mentioning his name. Companies that once partnered with him have quietly erased his presence from their brands. But people like Jaguar Wright aren't celebrating yet. She says this is only the beginning, that Diddy's conviction is just the surface of something far bigger. In her words, he wasn't working alone. It's a reminder that the real issue isn't just one man's crimes. It's about the system that allowed it to happen for decades, the culture that silenced victims, and the fear that kept talented people like Terrence Howard walking away, confused and powerless. In his letter to the judge, Diddy said he had been humbled. He asked for leniency so he could be home with his children and his mother. Whether that humility is genuine or strategic remains unclear. But Terrence Howard's experience, Jaguar Wright's warnings, and the testimonies from Diddy's trial all paint a picture of a man who thrived on control and a system that rewarded him for it. For Howard, the moment was personal. For Wright, it was a mission. For the world, it has become a case study in how power, fame, and manipulation intertwine in the shadows of the entertainment world.
There's a short life in
why do you think
world.
that is? What the creative side is?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take drugs. You're going through so much to try and deal with life. You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. But when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. Like if a woman gives up her womanly right of being a mother and taking care of her family and do all those things. When you give up those things, But when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man.
Terrence Howard didn't need to speak up. He's successful, respected, and has nothing to gain from exposing someone as powerful as Diddy. But his honesty shines a light on how even strong, established figures can be targeted in subtle ways. And now that Jaguar Wright's warnings have proven true in so many ways, people are finally beginning to ask the hard questions. How deep does this culture of manipulation go? How many careers were destroyed because someone refused to play along? And perhaps most hauntingly, how many stories, just like Terrence Howard's, were never told? The truth about Diddy may be out now, but Hollywood's silence still runs deep. So as we look at what happened to Terrence Howard and remember everything Jaguar Wright has been trying to reveal, we're left with one question that lingers long after the headlines fade. When the lights go out in Hollywood, who's really in control and who dares to tell the truth? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.